Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery podcast are proud to bring you Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast. Join your hosts, Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, as they address the real issues in health and wellness for first responders. From physical and mental health to relationships and work-life balance, we leave no stone unturned. Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, as well as iHeartRadio. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery answering the call.
Hey everybody, welcome to Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast, sponsored by Genesis House.
That's right. Thank you, Genesis House.
Thank you, Genesis House. We always have to thank Genesis House. For 2 years, they've been providing the funds to have this podcast and to educate and chat with many people. Oh, I forgot to mention.
What's your name?
Before the, what's whose name?
Your name.
Oh, I'm the Podfather.
Yeah, you are. And who am I?
You're
I'm Jersey fucking Ed.
right on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, he is.
I gotta make it go. I gotta make it happen now.
I got to give a shout out to a gentleman from Albany, New York. Albany.
Albany.
Yeah, police officer from Albany, New York, and his first name is Gregory. He didn't want his last name mentioned on the air, and he sent me a nice message, and he really enjoys not just the podcast we've done the last several months, but all the way back to the very beginning.
Wow.
Yeah, he said he's been watching them all a couple times a day, a couple shows a day.
Nice.
Really, he's getting a lot out of it.
He's a police officer?
He's a police officer.
Good.
And
Gregory, send us one of those Albany patches. We'd love to get you on the air, too.
That'd be great.
Help at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. You can get it out, too. So,
how are you, Jersey Ed?
I'm good. I'm good there, Podfather. Just another day, another great podcast and getting some information out and talking to our great guests.
Yep, smoking a nice cigar.
Smoking a cigar.
What are you guys smoking up there?
I don't even know. It was a gift or a surprise. Well, there's never a gift from that cigar shop.
I'm smoking a La Giana Toro, which is a Nicaraguan tobacco with the
La Giana's are good. I've heard good things about La Giana, yeah.
Very nice.
Bandolero.
Oh, the Bandolero, yeah.
Oh, my God. This is a good cigar, man.
It is a good cigar.
Bandolero 60? No, I don't know. That's what it is.
Now, why do you guys smoke cigars on the podcast?
Oof. Why?
It's relaxing. I think it shows exactly... who I am. I've been smoking cigars 44 years.
Get to just be yourself, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I like what the Podfather said, because we can.
Because we can, yeah.
That was one of our first shows. I think it was one of the... Remember the first show here?
With the lawn chairs?
Yeah. Check that episode out, guys. Yeah. It's the first show where lawn chairs.
Drywall backdrop with some real shadow,
now
shady.
Now we got this beautiful thing
I
here.
Yeah, we changed venues. We went from Studio 21 to Sweet Studio.
Yeah. Well, no, anybody on this podcast wouldn't know the other studio.
No, they wouldn't. But we do. We remember.
But if you watch the first episode of Answering the Call, it's you guys in lawn chairs with a couple mics in front of you.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Can barely see your face because the camera was garbage. It's good times.
It is.
Great
So
time.
hopefully
the message was sound though.
That was a good show, man. Listen.
Yeah. How many views did we get on that? We got
over 200 on that on YouTube, I believe.
Let me see. I'm gonna go all the way back and see where we are right now.
Yeah, it's a good show, guys. It's
225 views.
So you're listening to the Podfather, Jersey Ed, and Sweets, our producer extraordinaire.
The guy in the background.
How are you? The guy who's asking all the questions.
The man without a face.
I'm interviewing the Podfather and Jersey Ed right now.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah, you guys want to be interviewed?
Let's interview us.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question.
Because my deep and dark things with law enforcement.
I do, yes. Yeah, your deep dark secrets.
That's right.
So Podfather, why do you, what did you think was the importance of having a podcast for first responders? Why do you think that was so valuable to you?
Yeah, well, I got sober in 1986. I had been a policeman for 5 years. I went away to a place up in New Hampshire called Seminole Point. And I'll be honest, I was afraid to tell anyone in that group that I was a police officer because there was a lot of animosity. A lot of people were there because they had been arrested multiple times. And there really wasn't any place to turn. There was a guy named Eddie Donovan who started a program in the Boston Police, Cops with Alcohol Problems. So I kind of met with him after I got out. And I used to go to a meeting in Jamaica Plain, just for cops only, police officers only. And so when I got sober, I started a meeting for police officers only in Wilmington, Mass. And it went pretty well. We had about 9 to 11 cops, just police officers coming from all different cities and towns. And when I had the opportunity, when I met up with Jersey Ed several years ago, in the business he's in, me being a clinical social worker therapist now, and I work with a lot of cops and first responders, I just thought that this would be the ideal opportunity for people that have substance abuse problems that are afraid to come out and let people know, especially their jobs, that they have problems. And what a great venue to get the message out.
Yeah.
And we've done some good work. And with the help of Genesis House, I always have to mention them, and I don't work for them, but I've certainly used them multiple times, as I've used other facilities to send people away for, law enforcement, people away in correctional officers and firemen and EMS and just regular people. But I've used them multiple times, and I've had a great success rate. And as we all know, we're all recovering. Success rates in people getting long-term sobriety it's not something that we can marvel at and say, oh, we're really making a big difference. But we do have some success.
Right.
Absolutely.
So like the idea of, when you said those officer-specific support groups, a place where they could go and they could see, or talk to other individuals or hear from other individuals,
Correct.
even if they just sit quietly and listen,
Right.
is to be able to hear stories they can identify with, to not have to have fear that someone's going to judge them if they talk about what they've had to do or see or experience, that like the listeners here
Right.
can just sit quietly in their car, you know what I mean, or on their phone
Right.
or whatever they're doing, and hear some of the stuff, then identify with it, and
Sure.
maybe reconcile some of it in their own mind, right?
Exactly. And we, I give out our phone number anytime. Jersey Ed gives out the number to Genesis, and people down there that can help. And it's just, I think it's very, not clandestine, but it's definitely a scary place to be.
Sure.
When you have a firearm as part of your attire for work, and you're breaking the law by doing illicit drugs, you don't want to lose the ability to be a police officer. Because if you can't carry a firearm, you can't be a police officer in Massachusetts.
Right.
Is it?
No ifs, ands, or buts. You get arrested for drunk driving, and you're found guilty, your career's
the end of
over.
that.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have a substance abuse problem, if you have problems with alcohol, drugs, or any other malady, that you're having a hard time with, we're the guys you can contact. We'll tell you where to go.
Yeah. And I'd like to touch on that a little bit, if you guys don't mind, Mike. And since we're on Genesis, the first responders program down there, we look at the person as the whole, not just the police officer or not just the person. We look at them as the whole, because we know they're police officers, first responders, and we also know that they're moms or dads or husbands or wives, and think that's one of the huge successes of why a lot of first responders come to Genesis House. They're not just glumped into one program and we're treating their PTSD and just throw them into all cops and all firefighters. We get them in with civilians too, because they are a civilian when they take the uniform off. They're never a civilian, but but they're, like I said, a mom or a dad, and we have to get them get that part of their life together too. And Sweets, you do this all the time. Do you see that both ends have to be worked, just like a dual diagnosis? You have to work the substance abuse with the mental health issues.
Yeah, well, you have to treat the whole person. I mean, if somebody came into my life right now and they were like, all right, well, you need to go to treatment. I'm not a first responder, but I've got 3 companies, and I've got 2 kids, and I've got a lot of responsibility. And if someone was like, no, you need to walk away from all that to get sober, I'd be like, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to hold together here. Like, no matter what, you have to appreciate everything that person's been doing to try to hold their life together. And if recovery is possible, I think it's going to require that you do address all those things. Like, sure. If you're an officer, if you're a fireman, or if you're an EMS, if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, if you're anyone that's on the front lines, as a first responder, then somebody sits down with you. They have to know your profession. They have to understand who you are, and they have to treat you like a person with a life that you're trying to hold on to.
Right. And
before you lose it.
Yeah.
It's not like a designer, recovery, like a cop or a fireman or a cook or an electrician or a carpenter. I mean, if you have a substance abuse problem, your career really isn't as relevant as you might think it is. But there are certain, like I just spoke about handguns, carrying a firearm, there are certain parts of your job that, you just don't want society in general to know about. But I know for a fact that Genesis House has a track that includes law enforcement, and, it's been very helpful. I think you feel more secure. I know I've gone to thousands of AA meetings because I've been sober quite a while, and I just know that in the beginning it was hard for me because I went in the city I grew up in and I worked in.
Yeah.
But after a while, the people in there, they liked having me there, I believe, and I didn't have any. I had one problem. My whole AA career, I had a guy throw a small bottle at me. He didn't like cops, whatever, and that was back in the 80s. So I can honestly say that I think designer recovery is a bunch of bullshit. I really believe that. And I'm happy to say that recovery's come a long way. It's on TV every night. They talk about it. There's a lot more facilities now than there ever have been. And the AMA, the American Medical Association, has stepped up, I think, and given people a little more security about getting help and not losing their jobs because of their addiction, which is a malady or an illness.
Well, absolutely. But it's not just, the show's not just about addiction, and we're talking about addiction because obviously Genesis is sponsoring it and everything. But there's wellness being, your mental health wellness. Mental health, substance abuse you can hide behind, but mental health, sometimes you don't have control over that, and you can go off the deep end.
You shouldn't hide behind that. You need to address that. That could end your career. That could end your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Ed, Jersey Ed? Why'd you want to do this podcast?
First of all, I am not a first responder. I don't pretend to be one. I think I told my story on one of the first shows that I tried to be one and almost got arrested. So it was a bad couple of shows. Yeah. So, but I don't know. I just worked very well with them. And when we were putting the program together at Genesis House, the first responder program, I was really kind of into it, and that's why I met Mike and I met Jeff, who's on here once in a while, and we just talked about it, and just being around Mike, knowing Mike for the last 10, 12 years, it just felt comfortable because first responders need treatment too. So what's a better duel from a first responder and a treatment guy to get somebody the help they need? It's like a 1-2 punch. Boom, Mike's here. He can talk about the treatment piece or mental health piece, and I can help get them wherever they need to go. And not just Genesis House. If there's a mental health problem or whatever the case may be, we can do it. And it's kind of near and dear to my heart. And we've been doing our first responders program has been around almost 15 years now.
Wow.
We started almost 15 years ago.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Probably one of the only first responder, well, I shouldn't say one of the only, but one of the few first responder programs that have a first responder as the clinical director, or as the therapist. I shouldn't say clinical director, but as a therapist.
What's his name, Eddie?
Phil Ballone. We had him on the show.
New York police officer.
Yeah.
He was one of the first few episodes we did.
Yeah, if you scroll back to like the third or fourth episode, I think he has the most views.
I was going to say, I think you might be right.
Yeah, on all of our shows. It's amazing. He was very good too. So,
and it's true. And I think mental health is the common cold, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. It's the common cold of people in law enforcement or first responders, because you're not going to a picnic. If you're driving an ambulance and you get a call to go to a car accident, I mean, you're going to see some carnage. If you get a call for a hanging, a shooting, somebody fell off a third-story roof, it's just never nothing. It's nothing pretty. There's nothing you're going to go look and admire. You're going to, and what's funny is your training always kicks in. I've talked to cops that have been involved in shootings, and their training kicked in, and nobody's taught to shoot when you're taught to use a firearm as a law enforcement officer. You're taught to use that shoot to kill. You're not shooting to wing or trick shoot the gun out of the hand.
Like on the movies that doesn't happen.
You shoot until the threat is under control, which usually is 3 shots. And but I've had cops sit across from me that have killed people, in the line of duty, and it's some of them are veterans, war veterans, and to them it was just a walk in the park, so to speak. They weren't happy about it, but they weren't losing sleep over it either. But then on the other hand, I've had police officers sit in front of me that it's really made them think about, maybe I should change this career.
I think you told that the story in the last episode that you had a police officer, right?
Yep.
Did you just tell that story in the last?
I may have. I don't recall. But I just know it's not a walk in the park. But somewhere in the middle, they're usually, before anybody goes back to work after a shooting, especially a fatal shooting, they have to see somebody that's a professional and then works with them and make sure that they're clear and able to go back to work without having, all these horrible dreams and thoughts, and reliving it and feeling bad about themselves or the person that they whose life they took.
Well, there must be a sense of protection that comes with a shield and a gun. That you're safe. But being involved in shootings like that must make an officer question their own mortality. And their willingness to stay in that field and how severe the risk is. Once you're finally introduced to a situation like that. And I think maybe we can talk about that after the break. You guys can talk about the some of the line of duty deaths out there and what that does to a police officer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Hey, answering the call. I am the Podfather with Jersey Ed and Sweet Studio with Sweets himself.
That's it.
We'll be back.
All right.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. The First Responder Recovery Program at Genesis House is led by a doctorate-level therapist with direct professional experience as a first responder himself. Treatment modalities focus on psychiatric care, relapse prevention, stress management, and trauma-informed care for PTSD. Learn why their individualized approach makes a difference for first responders. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
All right. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Answering the Call, the First Responders Podcast, brought to you by
Genesis House.
There you go.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Some good questions there, Sweets. I'm just going to do some business here real quick and give everybody
get the business done.
That's it. First, we want to thank Genesis House for sponsoring us, and along with our first responders community. We want to, without Genesis House, we couldn't do this, like I said at the beginning.
100%.
Answering the Call, the First Responders Podcast is powered by your likes, follows, subscribes, and shares. Do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review. That's all 5, right, Sweet?
We want all the stars.
Yeah, all of them. We like lots of stars. So, and now for Jersey Ed's podcast pick of the week. My podcast pick of the week is Beyond the Shield. Host James Geering brings the greatest minds in mental health and physical wellness to the men and women who serve our community. It's an interview show again. A lot of these first responders podcasts are interview shows, but these are guys and women who are right on the front line of the mental health and physical health, not just the cop stories. So this was a pretty cool one because they work with the men. I guess they're like peer-to-peer officers, most of them on this show. So I really enjoyed it. So that was your podcast pick of the week, nice. Jersey Ed. So before the break, we were talking. Sweets was interviewing us, which was nice. I'm going to ask him a question. If he's if he can deny it if he doesn't want to answer it. What is it? You revoke your.
I'll invoke my 5th.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Yep.
So he's used to that.
Yeah. I got a history of doing that.
So when we were talking about our first show, with everything here, we weren't doing the other show here, the Friends in Recovery show.
Right.
Okay, so this was just the First Responders Podcast.
It was, yeah.
You put all this together for that podcast.
I did.
You were very eager to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't ask for much. You were very. I'll get this done for you guys. You guided us through a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. Very accommodating.
Very accommodating. Why did you want to do this show? Because that was the only show that we do both shows here.
Right.
But you had a passion for this also. You wouldn't have done what you did in here if you didn't have a passion to kind of get this also. Would be my guess. Now I could be wrong.
Right.
Maybe you just like building shit and putting stuff on walls. I don't know. Yeah. But I think I know you. You're a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah. No, I mean I was so to talk about my own situation, I'm in recovery, and I spent, a good portion of my time interacting with first responders, everybody from, the police officers who arrested me and then the ones who rescued me, to the EMS providers that helped me and saved me, the doctors, the nurses. There were a couple firemen involved. I mean, there was a decade and a half of just, my negative lifestyle and the people who worked to try to help me and save me. And, some of them were good. Some of them I had bad experiences with. But for the most part, there were a lot of people who, they had to deal with a lot of my stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, in hindsight, I look at first responders from a different place now, people mm-hmm. that, at one point I may have seen them as villains, mm-hmm. Because it was cops and robbers out there and I was the robber. And I would run around, and my job was to try to find a way to get away from them and to hide from them and to be better at what I did than what they did. And, in that moment, I didn't see them as people. I saw them as obstacles. Mm-hmm. In mm-hmm. recovery, I see them as people. I know some of them. I'm friends with some of them. And I, have to think about what they put their lives, the kind of danger they put themselves in on a regular basis to literally protect and serve. Mm-hmm. They were trying to protect me. They were trying to protect the community from me. They were trying to just do their job. And I was out there making it harder for them. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like a penance I'm paying to do this, but it's more so just seeing them as people instead of police officers, and trying to use empathy to imagine what it would be like if I had to, get up in the morning and instead of coming out to my lovely little podcast studio and starting a fire and drinking my coffee and playing with my dogs, is that if I had to suit up and go out and protect a population of people where a much larger percentage of the population probably doesn't even want me out there. Mm-hmm. They're trying to avoid me. They're trying to find ways not to interact with me, and I still have to go do my job. Mm-hmm. I still have to go out there and I have to protect people that don't like me. Mm-hmm. I still have to go out there and I have to do my job, even though maybe people don't appreciate my authority or don't want me in their lives. And that's, to me, it was just, I really thought that if we had a platform, and with the combination of you guys and your experience and stuff like that if we could create a platform for folks to listen to, that mm-hmm. Maybe it would give them some sense of how many people out there really do appreciate them. They don't get the accolades on a regular basis. Nobody you don't get pulled over and you be like, I appreciate you doing your job, officer. I know I was speeding. Thank you for pointing that out. And continue to protect and serve. Instead, you're like, I pay your fucking salary through my taxes,
give
and
me your
blah,
badge
blah, blah.
number.
And, I wasn't speeding. And so they're, constantly being beat down for just doing their job, protecting the people that are beating them down. And I was one of those people. So to me, I feel like this is an opportunity to give back. And if nothing else, maybe help them understand that even people like myself, we still appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's nice hearing that. 35 years as a policeman, 28 years, early nights, 4 to 12, in a cruiser, in and out of projects and in all kinds of settings. I can honestly say that someone like yourself, Sweets, who has not only turned your life around, you're a very successful man, you're a very intelligent man. It feels good for me to sit here, excuse me, as an older man, a retired cop, and to know that, that you appreciate the all first responders, from the ambulance, and I've had ambulance rides myself when I had my addiction. Firemen, I went to a fire station when I overdosed. They saved my life, basically. I was in the hospital for 3 days. Correctional officers, I was a correctional officer, and I treat them, I see them. I have friends. One of my closest friends is a correctional officer. And police officers, again, 35 years, I have a lot of friends. I can honestly say most cops, and I'm talking 90%, at least 90%, they take the job for the right reason. They are out there to help. There are some bad apples in every profession. Mm-hmm. Some people that just don't understand society, or they don't have great communication skills or good social skills. And unfortunately, sometimes you run into them. But I never, ever worked with a cop in 35 years in the city of Lowell that said, let's get him because he's black. Let's get him because he's Spanish. Let's stop him because of his ethnicity or because of his religious beliefs, or he's a Mormon, or he's a Buddhist, or he's a Muslim. Or, no, never nothing like that. But I can honestly say I've stopped people on operating a radar vehicle or a laser vehicle, cruiser, that all I'm seeing is the speed of the vehicle coming. I'm hidden behind a building, but the car's jutted out enough that I can pick up the speed. And when I stop him I'm told they stopped them because of their nationality or their background. And to me, it's kind of hilarious because I'm like, no, I stopped you because you're going 77 and I'm 35.
Yeah, right.
You know, sorry to bother you. You know, do you have children? You know,
I pulled you over because my car shook when you went by me.
I have a quick story. I was watching this bridge, and it was a very congested bridge in Lowell. It's called the Rourke Bridge. And I was in a bowling alley, and at 4 o'clock, 4:30 traffic, very, very congested. People were running the red light. So anyway, we had a note. This is your area. Watch the bridge from 4:30 to 5:30. Make sure nobody goes through the red light. Stop a lady one night. She's a woman of color. She tells me I stopped her because she's a woman of color. I said, no, I stopped because you went through the red light. I write her a ticket. She goes, I'm going to appeal this, and she spits out the window. Not on me, but spits out the window. Well, you know what? I was very insulted. Can you imagine me spitting at somebody in uniform? 2 weeks later, it was like Groundhog Day. Exact same car, exact same lady, same thing. She didn't recognize me, but she did the exact same thing to me, pulled out the race card. I said, ma'am, this is the second time I've stopped you for going through the red light. You're going to hurt somebody. You should pay attention. I said, if I stop you a third time, I guarantee you're not going to have a license. I'll make sure you don't. So she took that as a threat. My point is, it's a very frustrating job. That's just one person out of maybe 12 that I stopped in an hour for going through the red light. I can honestly say I never wrote a lot of tickets only because I look at I'm looking at the vehicle they're driving, where they're coming from. Nobody can afford a $300 ticket or a $200 ticket. I know I don't want to get one. So it was always a verbal warning, unless somebody was really egregious or their car was unregistered or uninsured. I couldn't let them drive away then because if they hurt somebody, it comes back on me.
Right.
But my point is, when people appreciate what you do, you don't forget it because you don't get a lot of thank yous out there. I can tell you that. Nobody's going, hey, thanks for the ticket. Thanks for stopping me. Thanks for arresting me for when I beat my wife or my girlfriend or my boyfriend. It doesn't go that way. But I have had people come up to me in supermarkets. I'm an old man now. Come up, say, "Hey, I'm so and so. You did this for me. You did that. You. When I was a kid, I remember you having these programs for kids. It's a rewarding feeling knowing that probably helped a lot more people than I hurt."
Yeah, but you know what? I got to say something about you too, Mike, and I hear it all the time. Not only did you do that in your policing days and your career, but you do that in life also. I can't tell you the countless times and emails that we get on our email thing. What is that? What's called the email box?
Email thing.
Yeah,
our email
the
thing.
little email box in front of you with the buttons.
Yes,
and letters
the email
and
box. Yes,
Yeah.
That says Mike Miles makes this show, blah blah blah, and he gives not on the job, but also in real life also. And I can honestly say I've seen that 1,000 times over with you. I've known you for 10 plus years now, and I see that all the time. You're in between shows, you're running out to take phone calls. You have to go meet people. You do stuff for free for people, and you don't have to. I think you're one. You're definitely above, and you go above and beyond. But I'd have to imagine there's a lot of cops out there like that, and they get a bad rap because they fucking pull people over and they give them a ticket for something you did wrong. That's why you got a ticket, not because you're bald or you're wearing a plaid shirt or whatever the case may be. It's because you did something wrong, and I don't know why people take that out of context, but. I guess in the heat of the moment, I'm guessing it's what it is.
I think what you said is I appreciate it, but I think the reason we all gel, the three of us, we gel so well is because we have very similar personalities in some ways. Sweets is a lot taller than both of us, but
both of us put together.
It's the suit I'm wearing.
The suit,
Makes me look tall,
that
very
is really,
slimming. Very slimming.
Yes,
very.
yes.
And a lot of people can't pull off purple.
That's right.
Especially shiny purple.
That's
Is
right.
that satin?
It's velour.
Velour. Very
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
70s touch.
Yeah.
I look at you. I think of playing pool.
It's called Huggy Bear.
Yeah, I keep it.
It's actually a tracksuit. It's a tracksuit.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Well,
It looks like it tucks.
I like the wide lapels.
Yes, exactly.
What do you got? A size 14 shoe?
Yeah.
The woman must love you. No, but we all have a very similar giving personality. When you're in recovery, like we all are in recovery, and long-term recovery, which is not really, not a lot of success in that, and I hate to say it, but it's true. But you can do it if you want to do it, and you just got to surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
How many times were you told in early sobriety, stick with the winners?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And I used to stick with the winners, all right. They were real winners, But I gravitated towards people in the program. my first sponsor is still the same sponsor. 33 years, the same guy, and he's been sober 40 years, and he's going deaf. He's old now, but you know what? I fucking love him, and he thanks me when I see him. He's like, "Thank you." I'm like, "Thank me. You saved my life." But I can honestly say that we have very similar personalities. I know if I wasn't a cop, I would have. I don't know what. I might have been an electrician or whatever. I had a lot of other options, heating and air conditioning. I did it all, but I know helping people is what we're all about, the three of us, and people that we have on the show. Miss Megan, about helping people. Yeah. Just the people we
from
have
our
on.
other show, from Friends in Recovery.
Yes, Friends in Recovery.
Well, it sounds like the theme here today is just if you're a first responder, we appreciate you. That even if the people you're helping, it doesn't seem like it.
Right.
Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. Keep protecting. Keep serving. Keep showing up. Keep helping, because in the end, I mean, it may not seem like it at the moment, and as a first responder, you probably know this, but in the end, they're going to. I mean, because I have the life I have right now, I can reflect back and look at all the people that stood in the way and stopped me from doing things that were really detrimental to my health, to my life, and without those little breaks, without people stepping in and stopping or helping or challenging, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Right. Well, I like what you said, Rook. I know we're running out of time, but I like what you said. You didn't call them a first responder. You called them a first. What did you say? First state. What did you call? What
first line of defense. First line.
No. When you were getting arrested, you said you
called
a
rescued.
A rescued.
I got a rescued.
Yes, I
never
like
heard
that.
Before.
I like that.
I do too.
And a lot of people don't understand that when they're in cuffs because they're buying drugs or selling drugs or whatever, but. We're blessed this deep into our recovery to understand that, not to be angry at them and not to be
not judgmental,
not judgmental because we were arrested. Or
there's
whatever.
A video. I know. I'm going to just tell the story real quick.
Ahead.
There's a video I watched, and it's there's a deer stuck in mud. Right. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. It was on Facebook a few months ago. Excuse me. And there was a deer stuck in mud up to his haunches, and there was a gentleman that was, as you can imagine, a pretty deep mud. It had a nice hard shell at the top. And the deer was just dead stuck, couldn't go anywhere. And this gentleman put a rope around his waist and starts crushing through the shelled mud and just swamping his way through this to get out there. And he gets out to the deer, and the deer is obviously stuck and doesn't want to be stuck, but it's still a deer and is afraid of this human, right? Because its experience with human is only negative up to that point. So. He starts trying to be gentle with the deer because he doesn't want to hurt the deer or scare the deer. So he's reaching in and he's gently trying to pick the deer up. And the whole time it's happening, the deer is just freaking out and, getting more stuck and making it harder to pull the deer out. And, at some point throughout the video, he takes the rope off of himself and he uses the rope to tie the deer's feet up. And just basically muscles the deer out.
Oh my God!
And drags the deer out of the mud. You know what I mean? And the deer is kicking, wide-eyed kicking, I'm dying. The whole time until it gets to the edge and he undoes the rope and the deer just scampers off. And I mean, there's no gratitude. There wasn't a look back, dude, I appreciate that.
High five.
It was chaos. It was turmoil. The deer thought it was going to die. The individual that was trying to rescue the deer just had to do what he had to do to get it done, because if he didn't. And his mindset was on, how can I make this easier for you? How can I make it gentle? They'd probably both still be stuck in the mud, and he wouldn't have done his job. Or he would have just walked away and, well, you know what? Screw you, dear.
Right.
You don't want my help. I'm out of here.
Good luck. Yeah.
And, and that's just not in that person's human nature. And most of the first responders I worked with, I'll say 90%, whoever they were, came in with that same attitude. They were they would give me the warning. Right. Hey, listen, I know what you're doing. You should stop. I'm like, yeah whatever. You don't know what I'm doing. And they're like, you should really stop speeding on this icy road or you're going to crash. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And it was, I always came in with that resistance, but they were just trying to protect me from myself. And I needed somebody in the end that could step in and just tie my feet up and be like, you know what, we're just going. Yeah. It's not up to you.
Just pull them and that's it. Yeah.
And I needed to be rescued. Right. I needed to be pulled out of my stuckness. And when I did, I was angry, but in the end, I was grateful because I had the ability to reflect back.
What a great analogy.
Wow. Yeah. That is true. And that's a first responder's job, is just to get you out of the mud and just move on. And
but you can try gently first.
Yeah.
And, but in the end, it's like, if I'm going to fight you, it is what it is.
This is how it's going to go down.
Hey, guess what, man? Click, cuff up.
Hey, well, this has been a good show.
Excellent, guys.
Jersey
Thanks.
Ed. And,
thanks, Podfather and Sweets. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Answering the call, the First Responders Podcast. Thank you.
Yep. Stay safe, everybody.
That concludes this episode of Answering the Call, the First Responder Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for sponsoring the show and supporting first responders who are struggling with addiction and mental health. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com.